We'll record.
Well, good evening. Under the governor's emergency order dating back to March 12th of 2020, in effect until the termination of the emergency then declared, a meeting of the public bodies may be conducted virtually, provided that adequate access is provided to the public. On March 29, 2023, the remote public meeting provision was extended through March 31st of 2025. This meeting is accessible via Zoom and is being recorded. All votes will be conducted by roll call. With that, I'd like to welcome everyone. Hope everyone had a joyous holiday season. And although we're a week into the new year already, let me wish all of you a very happy, healthy, and prosperous new year in 2024. So without further ado, the first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes for December 11th of 2023. Is there a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
So moved.
Hey, Stuart, thank you. And is there a second?
Seconded.
Okay, second. Thank you. And we will proceed to a roll call vote. Stuart?
Aye.
Lynn?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Roy?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you. The next item for business is the Emery Grover renovation status update and invoices and change order. And with that, I will pass the mic on to Hank and Ken. So please take it away.
All right, let me pop up my agenda here. Where is it? Bulletin. Oh, it never comes on. We'll go here. Everyone see that agenda?
Not yet.
Not yet. If you
Yeah.
sure.
All right. Go back to here. Try this again. There we go. How about that?
Coming.
There we go.
All right. Okay, the schedule, and then I'll go walk through the pictures after that. The chimney bricks substantially complete. They've got one frame to put in. The mason does. The roof valley copper and slate is continuing and ongoing. Window install is complete except for the arched windows and the two specialty windows, the north portico and the west side conference room. Gypcrete flooring has been completed. Loading dock walls and framing are complete. Wall framing is underway, and we had the engineer out today, and hopefully can start putting the gypboard on the ceilings to allow us to stand up the walls. Waiting on Eversource for a hookup at the pole for the transformer connection. And once that framing goes in on the chimney, the sprinkler and HVAC guys are ready to come in and do their thing. So let me grab the.
I have a couple of questions before we move.
Sure.
First question is, how far along is the roof? Can you give me a rough estimate of percentage complete?
95, 98%. They got a few spots of shingles left to do, and then it's mostly just flashing and copper valleys.
And they're pretty far along as well?
Well, that's all part of, I consider that all part of the roof.
Okay, so the roof is about 95% complete.
Yeah.
At least weather tight?
There's a couple of leaks because of the valley flashing, but
Okay.
they're working. Obviously, they weren't there today. We expect them back tomorrow.
All right. Second question is, the windows that aren't in, do you have what, temporary plastic in there, or?
Yes. Yep. They're all plasticed over.
So you're providing heat to the building now,
Yes. Yes. Heat's been running for a couple weeks now.
temporary heat?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And you're able to start interior work everywhere. It's sufficiently closed in so the building inspector lets you move ahead?
Well, we can do anything up to electric wiring. It has to be completely weather tight for that to happen. So once they get the roof finished, we should be able to get him to sign. We're a ways away from pulling wiring. We still got walls and rough in to do, so that's not going to be an issue.
But you're not doing chipboard or anything?
No, we don't have, I mean, you can see some pictures where the structure walls are up, but we still got to get the rest of the metal studs up, which we're
Right.
waiting on. We just got the engineer out there today to sign off to allow us to put the sheetrock under the joist, which will allow us to stand up the walls.
Okay. All right. Good. Thanks.
Ken, a big picture, where do we stand in terms of the calendar, the original?
Still working.
timeframe?
We just got O'Connor's revised schedule today, and I'm going through it, and I need to
Okay.
discuss it with them. So I can't give you a definitive answer on that.
Okay,
But we're pushed out at least 2 months, Richard.
okay.
So we're looking at August 1st,
Mhm.
and probably more to at least to the middle of August, but at least August 1st right now.
Okay. Great.
All
Any
right, this
questions? Okay.
Go ahead. First picture is a picture of these picture frame lintels for the HVAC duct work in the chimneys. And there's the one of these left up on the 3rd floor to go for them to finish that off. This is some of the framing that's going on in the stairwells. These aren't affected by the gyp board on the underside of the joist, so this is where they've started. This is pouring the gypcrete. It's about a 1-inch, basically slurry. It was like soup. It's only about 1 inch, around 1 inch thick. More pictures of the framing in the stairwells. These are the outside dormers. You can see the snow guards have been put on. You can see some of the wood trim, the gutters, copper flashing under the windows, more of the gutters. Again, more of the gypcrete being placed. And this is a dried up gypcrete floor, and you can see where they've started laying down their layout for the tracks, much of which is been installed, at least on the one floor.
Excellent.
Any questions there? Okay, let me go back to the agenda. Next up is the ACL. Nothing new on this. A couple of these are more placeholders than anything else in case we find something that comes up during, like, for instance, the window revisions. Haven't had anything yet, but the rounded windows have been troublesome, so there may be some additional monies needed there. But the rest of them have all been on the list, at least for the past month. And if there's no questions there, Richard, we're good to go with the voting items.
Okay, any questions from the committee before we proceed to voting? Okay, hearing none, seeing none. We will proceed accordingly. Okay, now would you like to proceed, Ken, with the change order first, or?
Do the change order first, yes, please, because there are a few things in their rec that are covered by the change order.
Okay. All right, and so with that, the first item is change order number 10. M. O'Connor Contracting, change order number 10 for Emery Grover in the amount of $61,665.64, general contractor. I don't know if you wanted to just perhaps before we put forth the motion officially, Ken, would you like to just maybe just briefly outline the items that are comprised of change order?
The two big items here are the security revisions. These were revisions to entry systems, cameras, etc., that were actually detailed a few months ago, but now the pricing has finally come in on it. And the other large item is O'Connor's time and effort during December for the exterior wall grouting. The other ones are, if anyone has questions on the others, I can explain them, but they're relatively minor.
Very good. Any questions from the committee?
This is actually change order 10 or 9.
10, yeah,
So-
I copied and pasted, George. You see it's application number 9, but it's
Okay.
change order 10.
Okay,
Okay. Very good. With that, the chair puts forth the motion for change order number 10 in the amount of 61,665.64. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Michael. Any discussion? Hearing none, we will proceed to the roll call vote. Stuart,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
George,
aye,
Roy,
Aye.
Michael,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Thank you. Okay, the next item for our consideration is invoice number 13 for M. O'Connor Contracting under General Contractor. This is requisition number 13 through December 2023 in the amount of $731,908.44. Is there a second on the motion?
Second.
Thank you, Michael. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we will proceed to the roll call vote. Stuart,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
George,
aye,
Roy,
Aye.
Michael,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Thank you.
and that's actually application 13.
It is 13, yeah, George. The
Okay.
old cut and paste monster again.
Okay,
Okay.
long as it gets corrected in
Exactly.
the minutes.
Okay, the next item for the committee's consideration is invoice number 26573 from BH Plus A. This is for November 2023 Emery Grover Architectural Services in the amount of $34,154.07. Is there discussion, is there a second to this motion?
Second.
Thank you, Michael. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll put it to a vote, and roll call vote. Stuart,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
George,
Aye,
Roy,
Aye.
Michael,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Thank you. And finally, under Emery Grover, we have invoice number 109350 from UTS of Massachusetts. This is for December 2023 materials testing, under the miscellaneous category in the amount of $770 even. Is there a second on that motion?
Second.
Michael, thank you. Seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing and seeing none, we will proceed to the roll call vote. Stuart,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
George,
aye,
Roy,
Aye.
Michael,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. And I believe that concludes the Emery Grover items for voting. Is there are there any other comments or questions with respect to the Emery Grover project before we close out this particular agenda item?
Yeah, I do, Chair.
Stuart,
Um,
please.
Question, just it's sort of a side comment, Ken, or excuse me, question. O'Connor's doing the Dover School right now, and they tore down the big section, and it just looks like it's been sitting stable. Do you know if there's been any issues over there? I'm not trying to manage your project, but is there anything that's kind of in between ours and theirs? Is there any sharing of services or people or anything?
I'm sure some of their staff may be over there. I was aware they were doing something in Dover. I didn't know it was a school.
Yeah, it was the school that's in the town there, in the center, that's been kind of mothballed for years, and they're
Yeah.
redoing a new center
Yeah.
there. Kind of
Yeah,
neat.
I'm
but-
sure some of their like some of their carpenters and their laborers, I know they travel around as needed to the various sites, but that's the only thing that I'm aware of that could be.
Yeah, I
don't
just
even
didn't know
the
if there was any
details of the thing.
pieces that were there. Okay, just
No.
a side note. Thank you.
No,
Anything else before we move on?
just one last question, Ken.
course.
The superintendent, I'm sure, knows that the building is going to be a little late.
Yes.
Does this create any problem for them
None
Other
that they've
than
indicated-
moving late?
No, none that they've indicated to us so far. I'm actually Hank and I are having a discussion on this today. It will probably result in a phased move-in. Number one, if it is August, the beginning of August, they'll probably be able to phase their move-in. But once they close to start of school in September, they probably won't do anything until the start of the school year has settled in and they move along there. But yeah, they're well aware of it and are planning accordingly.
And
Okay.
unfortunately, they do have good accommodation where they currently are.
Yep.
And other than ongoing maintenance, there's no rent.
Yeah,
That's about the value of the building when you think about it in terms of the rent versus.
Nothing
Other
like
than the
making them live
other than the
longer
rooms.
in more uncomfortable
But
situations.
Hank and I presented to the school committee last week with the update, and so everyone has heard it. But obviously, Hank and Ken had been talking with Dan about it, so he was aware of it.
Very
Okay.
good.
And our next step will be to, I think we have a finalized list for the FF&E. So that order seems to be pretty much on the budget. So we will likely proceed with that order. We can forward that to you, but I don't think you need to look at all the detail.
my only question about that is, are we still experiencing real delays in FF&E equipment, desks, tables, things like that we did over the last couple of years?
I'm sure there'll be some items, but in many cases, we're hearing that the lead times are not as long,
Okay.
and that some of the scheduled delays experienced during COVID, supply chain issues have been becoming unclogged, if you will, and smoothing out. But we can't really tell until we actually place the order.
And prices aren't going down, are they? Are they stable at least?
Well, we initially, in our prior estimate with Red Thread, we were over the $500,000 threshold, and they were able, in their most recent quote, to bring all of the items in with just barely underneath that $500,000, $500,000. Now that does not include the movable shelving in the basement, and it doesn't include yet the things like a snow blower and some of the other equipment. But all of the chairs and tables and desks and so on and so forth are part of that order.
Well, that's good. Thanks for the update.
Yep.
So, okay, very good. We will move on to the agenda item number 3 now, which is the RTU replacement at Elliott. We'll consider invoices and anything else we would like to put on the table. So with that, I will turn the gavel over, or the microphone over to Hank and Ken, if you'd like to proceed. Present.
Yeah,
Ken, you
just
start
a
off.
quick update on the schedule.
Yep.
They got into the mechanical room over Christmas vacation, and they got a tank installed, some piping, the pumps. They were there today, finished up what they can do at this time, and we'll be back right now, hopefully February vacation, and continue in April vacation before the big push obviously starts in June once school is out. But they've got a toe hold now, and things are moving along. Stuff's been ordered. Some stuff's in the rigger's yard, and materials will continue to move in between now and June. We're working on an estimate for the Broadmeadow project. We got the first one the other day. We're waiting on the second one, and we've got a cost reconciliation meeting on Thursday And once we've gone through that exercise at the meeting in 2 weeks, we'll present the results of that and where we are with the overall construction costs for the project.
Excellent. Okay. Hank, anything from your end?
No, I think Ken covered it all. Barry has been working closely with Enterprise, and Kevin, his HVAC lead, has been overseeing some of the process. So Barry and building maintenance have been doing the coordination with the school.
Mhm.
And the NEDP will be moving to other schools for the April break so that work can be done overhead in the performance space.
Very good. Any other questions or comments from the committee? Okay, hearing none, we have some voting items for the Elliott RTU replacement. The first item is invoice number 122324 from GGD Consulting Engineers. And that's for November 2023 Broadmeadow Services in the amount of $60,000 even. We'll take a second invoice also from GGD Consulting Engineers, and that's invoice number 122325 for November 2023 Elliott Services in the amount of $4,598.11 for a total under design of $64,698.11. Is there a second on the motion?
Second,
Okay, thank you, George. Any discussion from the committee? Okay, hearing and seeing none, we will proceed to the roll call vote. Stuart,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
George? Oh, I think George stepped away for a moment. Okay, well,
no, I'm here.
oh, yeah, okay. George, we're just on the roll call vote. So this is for the RTU replacement, Elliott, and the two GGD Consulting Engineers invoices. $64,698.11. Do you approve? Both
Yes.
affirmative. Thank you. Okay. And Roy?
Yep.
Okay. Barry?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. And Ann is not here tonight, not able to attend, but the chair does vote aye. And with that, those invoices are approved. There's one additional invoice. That's number,
Two additional invoices.
oh, I'm sorry, beg your pardon.
There's a enterprise, there's a change order, and then enterprise equipment, and then NV5 invoice.
I don't have that. Let me see if I can call it up on my Excel spreadsheet. My apologies.
That was on the spreadsheet that Catherine had sent through.
Yeah, I have the 690. Oh, yes. I have the $695.60 invoice, number 366126. That correct? That
Yes.
okay, yeah. Okay.
NV5.
And all right, so I will put forth a motion then for go ahead, Catherine, you want to say? Okay.
Well, there's the change order for NV5, PSS2. And then there's the invoice number 2 for enterprise
Got
equipment
it.
for
Okay, I'm sorry.
51,000.
Got it now. Thank you.
And then the last NV5 for $695.
Okay, so we'll take the change order for us. It's first, it's PSS number 2 from NV5 for Broadmeadow Commissioning Services in the amount of $54,815 even. Is there a second on that motion?
Second,
Thank you, George. Okay, any discussion from the committee? Hearing none, we will proceed to the roll call vote. Stuart,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
George,
aye.
Roy,
Aye.
Barry,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Thank you. And then we will now proceed to the invoice number 366126 from NV5 for November, December 2023 commissioning under miscellaneous in the amount of $695.60. Is there a second on that motion?
Second.
Thank you, Stuart. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to the roll call vote. Stuart,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Roy,
Aye.
Barry,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Thank you. And is that it for RT replacement, Elliot? Anything else?
One more for enterprise equipment,
Oh, thank you. Okay,
invoice number 2.
got it. Invoice number 2, enterprise, the chair will put forth a motion under for invoice number 2 payment thereof in the to Enterprise Equipment Company, Inc. And that's requisition number 2 through December 2023 in the amount of $51,205, and that will be under the general contractor budget. Is there a second on that motion?
Second.
Thank you, Lynn. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll come to the roll call vote. Stuart,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Roy,
Aye.
Barry,
Aye.
thank you, and chair votes aye. And that, I think, concludes the RT replacement agenda. Anything else before we move on? Any other questions or comments from the committee? Okay. All right, hearing none, we will proceed to the next item on the agenda, which is the Pollard School eligibility phase update. And with that, I'm going to turn the microphone over to Hank and Ken, and I think we have a guest as well.
Jason is present. He's with Doran Whittier. As
Jason.
you know, and perhaps you all remember Jason Boone. We have been working with them on the master plan, and that we were very fortunate in December to receive the invitation from the MSBA to enter into the eligibility period. Technically, we will not be invited until May 1st. They have invited 19 different projects into their pipeline. And because of that workload, they are breaking those 19 buildings into 3 groups. One that's starting January 1st, one group that's starting May 1st, and the other group is starting August 1st. We have been in touch with the superintendent, and we will be having a Zoom meeting with the project manager from the MSBA, who will be working with us in the future, just to find out a little bit more about the schedule and the ground rules. And one of the key questions is whether we can accelerate our eligibility phase and check all the boxes so that we can be back onto the schedule that we had anticipated in the master plan, where we were anticipating we'd be invited in on January 1, not May 1st. In order to do that, the first appropriation would be in May at May town meeting. And we would need to get the sign off from the MSBA on the language. They don't discourage districts from advancing quickly through the eligibility phase, but there are an awful lot of boxes that we need to check going through those different steps. And we're working, once we have the discussion tomorrow with the project manager, we'll have greater clarity as to whether we get a preview of the enrollment questions that they'll be asking. There's 2 sections on building maintenance. As you may recall from Sunita Williams, the town potentially can get 2 additional points for having excellent maintenance procedures in place. And we would also be targeting, now that we have the specialized opt-in code, we would be targeting the 3 additional points for the energy efficiency upgrades to the building. So all of those will eventually be factored into the project funding agreement, but the first step is to get through the eligibility phase.
Now, Hank, just so that we're all clear, when you refer to 2 points for building maintenance, good practices, 3 points, and so forth, what actually are you referring to?
So the percentage of reimbursement that the MSBA would be willing to reimburse the town. And again, as you may recall from Sunita Williams, even though in that instance we got 34.72% reimbursement, once we hit the caps on the square footage, once we hit the caps on the site development, then that capped out the total amount that we would receive. The MSBA has acknowledged that there's an increase in construction costs, and they have over the years slowly been stepping up their reimbursement rate. And right now, I think their standard reimbursement rate is in the $570 per square foot range. Does that ring a bell, Jason or Donald?
Yeah, apologize for being late, but I checked the agenda. I actually wasn't. You guys are running an efficient meeting tonight. So, yeah, the reimbursement, the building construction cost cap went from 393 to 550, and then they increased the site from 39 to 55. So 432 total to 605 for eligible costs.
Don, may I ask you about this? The state revenue climate is taking a turn for the not so good, in that they're reporting less in revenues than have been projected. Does that impact in any way the MSBA budget reasonably, viewed going forward, or is this simply a bonding issue and it's not going to? There's really no direct correlation to the to state revenues.
Right. This would not affect any projects that have been invited into eligibility phase.
I believe that they're funded through
1 cent
1 cent on the
sales tax.
6% tax.
That's right.
1%.
So we will have greater clarity as we get responses from the MSBA. I think that our goal, while we have 270 days to complete all the steps within the eligibility phase, our goal will actually be to try to complete all of those steps within the first 90 days. And by doing so, that means that we would be, and it's similar to what we did on Sunita Williams. We did accelerate some of those early stages. And in part, we feel as though we need to do that acceleration because there's a target date of November 2026 to do the override vote. And if we miss that window, then we miss that election cycle.
Yeah.
And it becomes a special election. It's not a presidential election year, but there are House of Representatives and other elections that occur during that mid-cycle.
You recall, Hank, that on Sunita Williams, they were surprised and a little, they gave us a little pushback on accelerating, but they finally learned that that really was beneficial. And so they're used to us pushing them faster than they normally would go with other towns. And I think it really is helpful to use Sunita Williams as an example of why we want to accelerate. We know how to do that, and it probably will. I think it meant some very positive things on Sunita Williams as we moved along, both in costs and in schedule.
Yes, and if the escalation rate continues, even if it subsides a little from 6% maybe down to 5%, and hopefully eventually down to 4%, any year that we can cut off, any time we can cut off in the bidding process will be to our benefit.
Absolutely.
We're also projecting, or I'm recommending that we bring on a construction manager at risk for the schematic design phase. And the reason that I think that's important is twofold. One, the site will be occupied during construction, as was the case with Newman, and also as was the case with the addition to the high school. The other aspect is the site logistics and schedule will, because it's all phased and there's renovation as well as addition, we really need the CMR on board to help us understand exactly how that building will be put together, where the laydown areas will be, all of the logistical aspects of constructing on a constrained size site. And so because of that, we will be including some estimated funding to bring that CMR on board after the feasibility is complete and we move into schematic design.
As you know, we probably will get pushback from FinCom on why we're doing that. So I think it simply means that we need to be as well prepared as possible to explain to them why it's critical that we go CMR as opposed to the way we did it Sunita Williams. It's a totally different project in terms of construction and schedule and open land versus a constrained phase project like Pollard. So,
Yeah.
So we'll have to convince our own people that that's a better way to go, which I completely agree, by the way.
If I may, I thought, Hank, in speaking with town manager as well, I thought there was already some discussion. So there is some awareness, especially with potential the additional position. It doesn't negate the fact of what you're saying, George. I think the wheels are starting to go in motion. So I think hopefully we don't have to catch up too much on that. Just keep the communication open. I don't know, is that correct, Hank? That there was already some discussions?
Yes, and mainly internal. I can't remember, Michael, if we mentioned to the school committee whether we're considering construction manager at risk. I think we did.
No, I don't think we got into that. We didn't get into that level of detail with them.
Yeah. In any case, it's a complicated project, and we also want to look at opportunities to do prefabrication off the site in order to accelerate that schedule. So those complexities, I don't think we can adequately get with a design bid build process.
Yep. Just be prepared, that's all.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
If you need any help, let me know. We fought this battle a few times before, Hank, and we've won every time.
Okay. I see that my wife is locked outside, so I'm going to go open the door if you'll excuse me for just a moment. Okay.
In the meantime, any questions or comments from the committee to our, especially to our guests? Yes, Lynn.
Can I ask what the offsite mod construction is gonna be? And is that allowed under the state bidding?
I'll direct that to Don or Jason.
Are you, you responded to Hank
Hank-
saying
Yeah, Hank just
prefabrication?
said he wanted to do some modular prefab offsite, and I
I
was
think
wondering what
he,
it was, and is it allowed by the state? Three
not-
bidders.
yep, not to speak for Hank, but I think he was talking about early release packages,
Oh, okay.
maybe doing early foundations,
right,
early steel.
that's
I think,
different.
certainly there is modular construction as a procurement method, which we've used for temporary classrooms like at Mitchell,
Right, you just gotta plan ahead. Okay.
Exactly. Yep.
I have a question,
Go ahead, Stuart.
to, Hank and, Richard. Have we formally convened a group to manage this, or are we just doing this ad hoc until we get to town meeting? We've been doing a lot of work and there's a lot of good things going on, but is this a formal set of activities for us?
Let me dig up a schedule here.
And I'm not by any means saying we don't do it. I just think that if there's some formalities that should be in place, I think it'd be important.
Let me share my screen. Okay, enlarge this up. So the steps that we need to go through during the eligibility phase, there's this initial compliance certification where town manager, superintendent of schools, and I think the chair of the school committee need to formally sign a formal document that indicates they're accepting the invitation and agree to the procedures that the MSBA has as part of their process.
Yeah, if I just clarify quickly, Hank, not so much about that as much as internally for as a town, because it strikes me as if we may not get anywhere, any feedback until May 1. There seems to be some runway here that we probably should get a bunch of stuff done so we can be more prepared. So my question really is, from now till May, do we have any formalities that we need to go through to ensure that we're either sanctioned or people are going to support beyond what needs to be done?
Well, certainly the school committee is aware of the process we're going through. The capital improvement plan, CIP, contains a funding recommendation, which we're refining right now. So the built into the CIP for FY25 is the recommended funding amount for the feasibility stage of the project. And that has not been fully vetted yet with the FinCom, but there have certainly been multiple discussions that came out of our prior chairs meetings. We will
Right.
have,
the point is, Hank, is there work that needs to be done between now and May 1 that will consume your time and other people's time that should be sanctioned to enable it to be done?
Yes, I'm probably putting in at least 25-30% of my time right now. Fortunately, we now have a new sustainability manager who is taking over on some of the climate action plan things that I had been working on. We will not be able to bring on board additional staff between now and May 1 to handle the workload, but following May 1, we would anticipate having funding to initiate that additional senior project manager. There will be multiple discussions, discussions with the school committee about the budget for this feasibility stage, where we're doing refinements of that now, and I'll be bringing back more detail to PBBC in our second meeting this month. We're reviewing that internally and also looking at the schedule, some of which will be determined whether hopefully will be determined whether we can accelerate or not these steps. For this committee, we have to form a school building committee, and the basis of that will be the Permanent Public Building Committee. However, there are several other members that need to be on it, some of whom are already assigned on other projects. We have to have at least one member from the school committee. We have to have the head of building maintenance be part of it. They recommend that a member from finance committee be a member of the school building committee. There has to be one person either voting or non-voting who is MCPPO certified. Both Barry and I are MCPPO certified. I don't know, Lynn, if you are as well. So we have that base covered with, and I think when we were doing Sunita Williams, Steve and I were both MCPPO certified, but none of the PBBC members were. But as non-voting members, we could be part of the committee. So there's some logistics we need to work through there. And we would want to work those through with you and with the school committee and with FinCom prior to May, because we would want to have that lined up and ready to go, ready to submit. The educational profile during the eligibility phase, all of these other ones, both the school committee, Barry and his team, we would need to start pulling together all of the information that's necessary to submit after May 1st. But that's really more toward the MSBA and not internal, Stuart, with the other committees within town. The FinCom meeting schedule to review this, I think they're still forming that. And Catherine, I don't know if you have their full schedule for the spring yet, or Michael, if you know.
I don't know yet. I haven't heard that, what the dates are.
So we would have to prepare for that meeting, and then we will also have to put together an FAQ, as we usually do, working with the school department to answer the common questions that would typically come up. Right now, within the capital plan, the funding for feasibility is all cash. There's no borrowing associated with it in the current capital plan, which simplifies things a little bit in terms of the does not need anything more than a simple majority vote to approve it. Does that answer your question, Stuart?
I mean, I just want to make sure that if this process requires an amount of work to be done, that everybody's doing it out of the goodness or whatever, but if it's sanctioned or at least there, we can ensure that we're gonna get what's needed, but that's all. I was just not sure, because we don't have a formal project underway. We've been invited, if the school committee started running it, but as a PVC, just want to make sure that we're aligned with what we need to do, and if there's anything we need to make sure gets done, that we formally, make sure it's known. So I'm not sure if I got the answer to my question, but I just wanted to put it out there.
Hank, when would we need to get a first vote from town meeting regarding any expenditures as we move forward?
May.
Well, we're hoping for the May annual town meeting.
Okay,
That
Yeah.
would be the 3.9, or at least the placeholder is 3.9 for the feasibility study.
Yeah, we're reviewing that, Michael, and we
I know,
may be
that's
able
why I
to-
said placeholder.
Yeah, placeholder. I think we have the ability to bring that number down,
Yes.
which
Affects other items.
yes,
We'll leave it at that.
yeah.
Is there anything we need to do before May 1? That's really the question.
I would want to review the budget with you, and I'd like to do that at the next meeting. The budget for the feasibility stage. I'd like to refine this schedule that I'm showing you right now, and then bring that to you, so you have a better understanding. I think that there may need to be a chairs meeting to talk about who would sit on the school building committee, other above and beyond the PBBC. And Michael, I think that the school committee would need to select a person to be on this.
Correct.
A person or two. I mean, it may be there are 2 members, and then the question also is whether Barry would be a voting member or a non-voting member, but he would have to be part of that committee, or his designee, and who from finance committee would be on that school building committee.
Aren't there, I seem to recall that there were 2 voting members of the, is that true, 2 voting members that have to come from the school committee, or designees?
Or designees, yes. I mean,
Probably for the school committee, and I expect probably Ann, it has been in the past. I would
Yeah.
imagine, but I haven't talked to Dan about that. Yes,
yes,
Dan.
I think we had,
Or do we have 2 members?
when we started the Sunita Williams, we had 2 members. And then it transitioned once we got into DD to bring the principal on board.
That's right, yeah.
Actually, we do need to have the principal on the school building committee as well. Now that can either be a voting member or a non-voting member. But that principal does need to be a member of the committee. So those are some of the details that I've been culling through the MSBA website and coordinating with Ann and Dan. And the first step was to come up with the budget for the feasibility stage. And we've also been reviewing some of those numbers with Doran Whittier folks who have experience on others. I will note that the selection, once we get through the eligibility stage, if we can get through in 90 days and get to their August board meeting, that would enable us to take the next step, which would be to get authorized to have an employee owner's project manager. So our department be the OPM, and yet we would need to have a cost estimator as part of our team, similar to what we did with Sunita Williams. Currently, we have Hill International that could provide that service. I just need to review our contract with them to see whether they would be eligible for that, or whether we would need to go out for RFQ to get that. And if so, then we'd have to be looking at initiating that RFQ pretty early, soon during the summer, soon after the May town meeting vote. And then again, the MSBA has their designer selection process, which we have to follow. We participate in, we give our recommendations, but until we go through their process, the designer and the design team will not be selected. Overall, the goal is that we would be able to initiate the feasibility with the preliminary design program, or also known as PDP, by the first of the year 2025, a year from now. So that's the sequence that we're looking at going through for eligibility, and leading up to the feasibility stage. Any other questions?
I had one quick one, I think. In terms of scope issues for the project, is there full clarity in everyone's mind as to what the scope is going to be? Or is that something that needs to be further scoped out internally within the town?
The preliminary schematic report, the PSR, it requires the town to go through and look at various options. And as you may recall, George, when we did that with Sunita Williams, we first had to go through and look at the adequacy of the existing hillside site. We
Right.
then went through and looked at multiple alternate sites, including DeFazio. Before, at the end, we also added in the farm, Owens Poultry Farm, once that became available. So it's not until we get to the PDP and the PSR stage, and the MSBA will require us to look at one option, which would be a total new building and a tear down of the existing building. They will require us to look at different variations of an addition and renovation. And they will probably also require us to look at a total, both a 7-8 grade configuration and a 6-7-8 grade configuration. In other words, they may require us to look at just keeping the middle school breakdown the same way it is, therefore resulting into a much smaller middle school with just 7th and 8th. All of those studies will have to be part of the PSR, or preliminary schematic report.
Well, I understand that, but I was thinking even before that, I know that that has to be fleshed out in the decision-making process. But I'm talking about conceptually upfront before you get there. Has there been any internal discussion about what that scope might consist of in the way people are thinking now in terms of school committee and the town itself? Kind of an overview of it.
I think that the options from the from the school master plan, which was first published in 2020, and we've gone through iterations since then.
Yeah.
I think that the educational profile that's currently being recommended with the 6, 7, and 8 combined middle school is the direction that the town wants to pursue. Isn't that true, Michael?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, even all that stuff that I know we have to do for the MSBA, I mean, we did a lot of that work with this in mind, right? As we have in the past years, we know what they're going to ask us to do. So very little of what they ask us to do, we haven't thought about. Now they might disagree with what we came up with, or the study could change it, but you know, there's not a surprise in terms of, oh, you've got to look at this. We didn't think of it. Right. I mean, that's what
Right.
the master plan was for, to consider all these issues and come up with a recommended educational configuration. And believe me, we would not have gotten to something of the scope if we didn't think it was the best way to do it.
Right. I'm just, this has taken, even though it really hasn't taken a long time when you think about it in the long term, it's taken sufficient time. Some of the players that are decision makers in the process may not be as up to speed. Is there a value in kind of getting key people together to make sure it's clear in their mind what our objective is, and then let them know that we're going to have to look at all these options? Of course, that's part of the whole process. But what our target is, so that everybody's on board before you go and ask for money. I'm talking about doing this within the next, maybe it's just reiterating what the current thinking is or something. I just don't want there to be a something that all of a sudden pops in and says, well, I wasn't sure of what that would be, and you end up getting some disagreement internally.
Who are you thinking about? That would probably be helpful. That we
Well,
might know.
I'm thinking about the fact that our select board has new members on it. Our FinCom is constantly changing and offering commentary, and I want to make sure everybody's in line with this, because this is in my opinion, a really good opportunity to move the whole thing forward, and I don't want to miss that opportunity. So it's something that you might want to just informally talk about and say, do we have everybody on board, even though there's obviously going to be changes and there's obviously going to be work done to look at all the options. That's a part of the normal process. But I'd like to think that almost everybody was on board with this before we move that forward.
In terms of accepting the option C and or option D within the school master plan, I think we had broad consensus on that, George.
Okay.
Nobody liked the total budget, or I should say total cost, but I think everybody recognized the importance of being accepted into the MSBA process, because the potential reimbursement, even if it's only 20%, you're still talking about $40 or $50 million. And that's a sizable chunk of change.
Yep.
And the two boards who have to authorize that, to say that, are the select board and school committee, and we did as part of the MSBA submission. So, I mean, everyone's on record.
Okay.
Okay, we're gonna have to kind of wind this up because we are a little bit behind schedule now, and but it was very much a very important discussion. And any final comments before we move on? Okay, so there's nothing else we need to do at this moment. Hank, half at this point to everything's in process, and you'll let us know when we need to act. I take it.
Yes, and I'll be coming back at the next meeting for another update.
Excellent. Okay, great. Well, thank you all very much for your time and your input today on this important topic. Thank our guests. Appreciate Jason and Don, you're joining us tonight, and we look forward to speaking with you in the future. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Don.
All right. The next item is the capital plan for FY 2025, and also a DPW update, library update, and theater renovation update. So,
Yeah.
Hank?
So this I just sent out to you as a minor update to the committee's schedule for the upcoming projects. On the capital improvement plan, not only is there the feasibility funding for the school master plan, there is phase 1 of the DPW project, which would be the addition to the Jack Cogswell building. There is the SAC, or the Safety and Compliance Phase 2 items for the school theater. There's still discussion as to whether the Newman Theater project could get funding as part of the May town meeting. And the library phase 1 would also get funding during that window during May. For the design phase, and typically we're either coming back the following year for construction funding, as would be the case with the library and the theater, Newman Theater, assuming we get that moving forward, whereas the design and construction funding would be slightly off cycle with the phase 1 of the DPW expansion project. And so we're pretty much on target with these other projects. Those do need to be on your radar screen while we are still finishing out the construction at Emery Grover, a fall move-in, the construction of the Elliott rooftop units this coming summer, and design and bidding of the Broadmeadow School. So construction could happen in the summer of 2025. And we're trying to accelerate those bid documents so that they could be on the street by April, anticipating an award for that project, targeting June 1 for that award. So there's a full year of lead time for the contractor to be able to order and procure any long lead items. So that's sort of a large scale summary. The one piece that is up in the air right now is the Newman project. And as you may recall, these theater system upgrades, we were talking about phasing those in over the years. And instead, the school department is recommending we focus our attention on doing all of those theater system upgrades at one of the theaters, focusing on Newman as sort of the premier venue within town, so that could happen as soon as possible. But funding, they're still searching for funding for that piece. Are there questions there?
I think we're good. Hank.
I know everyone wants to watch the football game, and I thank Dimitri for joining us, and also Leanne Sutton, who joining us from the arts program at the schools. So Leanne, thank you for joining. Hopefully I explained the theater, Newman Theater. We are optimistic, I should say. We will have to confirm as we go through the Pollard project whether all of the theater system upgrades that are proposed by HughShot could be integrated into the project. And I believe that those could be integrated into the project, but we need confirmation on that. And however, it would come not on the schedule we had outlined previously, but on the schedule associated with the overall project. Good. Well, we don't have any other voting items.
Very good. I guess, and Leon or Dennis, if you have any other comments you'd like to present at this time, please feel free. Otherwise, we'll let you go. So anything you'd like to say regarding these projects? Okay. All right, guess not. So thank you for joining us anyway. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
You bet.
Appreciate
Thank
being
you.
here.
Okay, great. All right, final item is for PBC, other business. Couple of things I wanted to just kind of remind the committee that are still kind of out there for us to consider. First is the status of a contractor member who would succeed Jean. I'm not sure if there's been any movement on that front. Hank, have you heard anything in that regard?
Only that it's been referred to town manager,
Okay,
and the town manager's office has posted it on the town website.
Yeah.
Inviting people, and certainly if any of you know people in the community that might be appropriate, and you want to speak with them and or answer questions, or have them call me or call us or call Richard, we'd be glad to answer any questions.
Just to comment, I have actually started some discussions to get a potential list of names that might be candidates. I don't hold out hope that it's going to give us the kind of candidates we're looking for, but it's hard to separate those. But I will have a report for everybody at the next meeting.
That's great.
It's not as easy to get that because you also have to separate out individuals that are landscape people versus real contract experience. So, but that's,
Or
I
you could
should
just,
have,
or you could just send it to all of them, and when they say like, it's me, you say, sorry, not landscape.
yeah,
I mean,
Well,
it's the best way to hit the biggest group if we
Right.
just do a blast.
right. So I will have some information for you at our next meeting for sure.
okay,
Great.
And
Thanks for
hopefully
doing
we'll
that,
result in
George.
some candidates, yeah.
absolutely. Thank you.
And Leanne, if there are any students whose parents are contractors and would be appropriate for the committee, all suggestions are welcome.
Absolutely.
Can we just go to the website and download it? Because I was gonna, before I joined this committee, I didn't know there was a town website. So, I mean, who looked at that, I guess is my question. So, I mean, should we all be doing LinkedIn and putting it on Instagram and other things like, hey, if you live in Needham? Because I don't,
Well, that would help. If someone has the ability to go out and post something on either LinkedIn or
yeah, I'm happy to
on
do that.
Facebook
Well,
or Facebook, they might be able to get some
What?
suggestions.
Hank's like, no, don't do that. What?
no, I think if you do that, you should coordinate with town hall.
Yeah.
Right.
Because the town does have a LinkedIn.
Do they do it?
Yes,
I mean, who
through
follows LinkedIn of the town?
Amy
Same people who go to the
Helson.
website?
Amy Helson.
I mean, we're trying to spread the wealth here and we're like looking at our belly buttons.
Would,
Chief Information Officer is Amy Helson. And so
Okay.
she would be the one to coordinate with.
Super.
yeah, and I think LinkedIn would be the right, I certainly wouldn't recommend Facebook, but LinkedIn would be the right mechanism, given that's
Yeah.
all that work. They
Right.
used to be able to search on LinkedIn. It's been years since I did it, but do something of a search that has people's location and something else. And I don't
Yeah.
know it's been a while since I did it and it wasn't.
I'm just gonna try and find the LinkedIn post for the town and then repost it with a note, and that will do it. I just gotta find it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But it may be worth asking, and Amy may know, is there is still a way that you could go on LinkedIn and look for people who list Needham as their location? And one of
Yes.
those things, because that will give you, that's a better than even looking through, because the
Yeah,
town
you can definitely do
to-
that. I can try
going
that.
to Teddy, you can get what people list as your occupation, but this would be more effective. I
Yeah,
just
that's
like to try to do the multiples.
That's the trouble I'm having, but we should work at it from both ends and maybe we'll be lucky.
Yeah, I'll give that a shot.
And if in the process you find somebody who's a great senior project manager who has MSBA experience.
I'm gonna keep them for myself. No.
Okay.
The problem is that I know a few of them, but they would have to take a big cut in pay.
Oh. Well,
Sorry
thank you.
about that.
Thank you for all your efforts. Anyway, let's continue on, but appreciate the effort. A couple other things, it's been brought to my attention by Catherine. Thank you, Catherine, that the April 22nd meeting actually is first night of Passover. And that will be, that's certainly problematic. And then on top of that, we don't have a lot of flexibility in terms of finding another meeting date to replace the 22nd. The League of Women Voters warrant meeting presumably will be on the 29th, that Monday. And the week before is school vacation week. So we don't have a lot of solutions at the ready in terms of replacing that meeting. I think my question to the committee and to professional staff is whether it would be feasible to get by with one April meeting. Is that a possibility, Hank and Ken?
I think it's possible. It's that second meeting would be the last meeting prior to town meeting.
Yeah.
And with the votes that are coming up, I'm a little concerned,
Well,
but
sure.
hopefully,
Could we move that meeting to a Wednesday, for example? Since it's Zoom, we could probably move it to a Wednesday.
I'm certainly
Is that possible?
I think it certainly is possible that,
I agree. That's going to be a busy time.
yeah,
And if we want to cancel later, we can, but I do think it's a good idea to schedule a second meeting that month.
Wednesday would be the 24th instead of the 22nd.
Right, and the only conflict might be, there's probably going to be a FinCom meeting that week.
Yeah.
On
Probably
and
that
they-
night.
Probably that night, right?
Yeah.
Which if we've often had to go to those meetings to discuss last minute questions that they have before they formulate their opinions. But we can work around that if we have to.
Yep. Agreed. So, Hank and Catherine, do you want to try then for the 24th as a replacement date? And does that work for everyone?
We'll look to see what potential conflicts there are.
Okay. All right. So you'll get back to me then on that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Since it's not usual that we meet on a Wednesday, it'd be a good idea for all the committee members to really check their calendars and see if it's possible to attend a Zoom meeting that night if we had to. Because I'd hate to schedule it for something important and then not have a quorum.
I'll go on record and say I will be available.
So will I.
Right.
Should be too.
Okay.
Okay.
Just two other, two other quick items. One is that I wanted to also see whether there was any interest in having an in-person meeting anytime soon. Again, I think our rule of thumb has been that if there is a kind of a critical meeting where there's a lot of important issues to discuss, it would behoove us to meet in person as opposed to the Zoom format or hybrid format. So I simply throw that out there as a something to consider as we go deeper into calendar year 2024. There might be, and certainly Catherine will need enough lead time in order to book a suitable location. So so we'll have to kind of think about that, be mindful of agenda items coming down the pike that might warrant or have us consider meeting in person. So we throw that out there as an observation. Finally, we still do need to kind of think about succession plans, or at least backup to me in case I am not available for a meeting. Again, I've had a very good attendance record to this point since I was appointed to the committee, and I hope to continue in that vein. But there's always a chance that something will come up. So we want to make sure that we have somebody who can take the reins of the even on a pro tem basis, the chairmanship should the need arise. So I want to make sure we are mindful of that as well. And Stuart, you might be my emergency backup.
Why not? Emeritus is for some reason. George could probably help too, but yeah, absolutely. I should be around. So I
Excellent.
think we all should be able to back each other up until we
Yep.
can get a more formal set.
Perfect. Thank you. And I think that's everything on my agenda right now. Any further comments before we adjourn?
I would just ask,
Yeah.
I can't find it on LinkedIn, but if you have it, Henry, or connect me to whoever I should talk to. I am doing the search, as you noted, Michael, and I found 3 or 4 people. So I'm connecting with them to ask them, but we'll see how it goes.
Great. Yes, I'll send you Amy Helson's contact info.
Sure. Okay. With that, I think we can move on to a motion to adjourn. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to
Move.
adjourn. So
Okay, roll call
Second.
vote. Okay, and motion's been made by Stuart and seconded. Stuart,
aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Roy,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Thank you very much for tonight's meeting and your participation. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. Thank you.
Nice work, Richard.
Thank you
Well
very
done.
much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Take care.